Via email. Report story. Hey guys, this is Anime Fan 2991 with another great chapter to Family Matters. I'm so sorry this chapter took so long to publish, but there were a few setbacks, i.e., 3 nor'easters that cut off my power, recovery from thyroid removal surgery, and getting back into the swing of things in terms of my personal life. But I'm doing well and glad to be posting again. Also, I do not own My Hero Academia, its characters, or locations. Nor do I own the song, You'll Be in My Heart. That is owned by Disney and Phil Collins. Without further ado, here is Chapter 2 of Family Matters. Et. The alarm clock in Midoriya's room continued to blare loudly until a hand slammed down on it. Groggily, Izuku Midoriya rose up and stared at the clock to see that it was 6:05 in the morning. Slowly, he got out of bed and made his way to the little girl sleeping in the bed next to his. Eri, Midoriya said as he gently shook her shoulder. It's time to get up. 5 more minutes, Papa. Eri groaned as she shook off Midoriya's hand. Instead of letting her rest, Midoriya picked her up and exited the room with Eri's head resting on his shoulder. Soon they found themselves in the living room and the kitchen, where they were greeted by a shark-toothed, red-haired student. Morning, Midoriya, Kirishima said as he saw the two. Morning, Eri. Morning, Shima, Eri said as she rubbed her right eye sleepily. Both Midoriya and Kirishima had to smile. Even though the two of them tried to explain Kirishima's real name a few days ago, they were shot down by Mina, who insisted that Eri calling Kirishima, Shima, was just too adorable. Eggs this morning? Kirishima asked, to which Eri nodded her head. Kirishima cracked his knuckles as he began to make her breakfast. Soon, Eri was presented with a plate of scrambled eggs, toast with strawberry jam, a peeled banana, and a glass of milk. Eri was about to pick up her chopsticks and begin eating when Midoriya stopped her. Eri, Midoriya said, what do we say before we begin eating? Oh. Eri said when she realized her mistake. She placed the chopsticks down, clapped her hands together, and said, Itadakimasu. Before she ate, soon, others began to emerge from their dorms, each greeting Eri with a smile which she returned in kind. Morning, Eri, Uraraka said sleepily as she made her way to the kitchen. Morning, Mama, Eri replied with a smile. Behind her, Uraraka could hear the snickers of Mina, Honta, and Toru as they heard Eri address the gravity user with affection. Uraraka groaned to herself as she remembered what she had told them a week ago. Uraraka, Mina asked in concern when she and the rest of the students saw Uraraka's beet red face after she had tucked Eri to bed. What's the matter, Eri? Uraraka said quietly. She called Deku, Papa. Makes sense, Mashirao said as the rest of the students nodded. Considering the fact that he's been made her temporary guardian, it's natural that she sees him like a father figure. Father figure. So you're a wreck because Eri called Midoriya, Papa? Kyoka asked. No, it's what she said next. Uraraka replied. She called me. Mama. The silence in the room was so eerie you could hear a pin drop. Every one of the students were looking at Uraraka with dumbfounded looks on their faces. Even Bakugo took a moment to look up from his history book to look at the gravity user. Oh my god, she called you, Mama. Mina and Toru exclaimed as they both got in Uraraka's face and moved their arms up and down excitedly. That is so stinking cute. Promoted stories. You'll also like Marikai Aizawa and Eri X Girl. Reader fanfic 143K 4.8K completed. Virtual. An underground pro hero with a quirk similar to that of telepathy but can transmit a whole scenario into someone's mind. Through the years, she's only Izuku x Ochako MHA fanfic 300K 3.5K when Izuku and Ochako are paired up for a school project. They end up growing a little bit closer than they expected. Tilda plus tilde other ships will be hinted at PG-13 content. The Teacher's Daughter, Class 1AX Aizawa. Re. 0.316K 8.1K COMPLETED started. November 9, 2019 ended. January 17, 2020 edited by CatX Cat 321 Class 1A get targeted by unknown villains, not LOV, and are forced to stay at the unlikely pairing 36.2K1K2. Heroes with opposite personalities find that they're more similar than they think. Through their history, they discover a love and trust for each other which no one BNHA asterisk boyfriend scenarios asterisk PT 2146K 2.6K4. All you newcomers, here's part 1. For the rest of you, let's go. Who is that? 6.1K 145 and quad. A. New student has arrived in school. She seems familiar to most of the students, especially one. And quad. There will be ships in this fanfic. Some of them include moving up 83,449 after Katsuki helps Izuku get a job at the discount store he works at. Izuku soon has to face the crush he's been harboring for his childhood friend. While he deals with shish, Uraraka said as she put a finger to her lips and pointed up the stairs. Aries sleeping. And yes, she did call me her mama. That could also make sense. Iida said as he was snapped out of his shock by Mina and Toru. What do you mean, Iida? Suyu asked as she cocked her head to one side in confusion. Eri never really had a mother figure in her life. Iida tried to explain. Since you were both the first female figure and student that showed her kindness besides Midoriya when she arrived here, it's only natural that she sees you as the mother she never had. I would suggest that you play along with being called Mama, for the time being, Uraraka. All right, Iida, Uraraka said with a sigh. I'll be known to her as Mama, if it helps her have a sense of a normal life. So, Mina said with a sly grin, when's the wedding? Mina, Uraraka exclaimed in shock as her cheeks reddened. Uraraka, Midoriya asked in concern. Yes, Uraraka asked as she was snapped out of her thoughts. Do you mind helping Eri get ready for the day? Midoriya asked as Eri made her way to her. Of course, she said as she took Eri upstairs to shower, brush her teeth, and change her clothes. After 20 minutes, both girls came downstairs, ready for the day ahead of them. You ready to go? Suyu asked when she saw Eri. Yep, Eri said as she took Suyu's hand and waved at Uraraka and Midoriya. Bye, Mama. Bye, Papa. See you later, Eri. Midoriya said as he made his way up the stairs to his own dormitory room. Have a great day at school, Uraraka said as she waved back. As soon as they were outside, Suyu knelt down on the ground so that Eri could climb up and wrap her arms around Suyu's neck. You all set? Suyu asked, to which Eri nodded. All right then, hold on tight. And with that, Suyu leapt into the air and landed like a frog with Eri clinging tightly to her. After 30 minutes of leaping through the air, they stopped at a shiny, glass building where other kids who were about the same age as Eri were talking to each other. Over the duration of the previous week, it was decided by the teachers that Eri would need to attend school in order to receive her education as well as be preoccupied while the rest of Class 1A attended their own studies. Fortunately, due to the League of Villains ambush at the summer retreat, UA had decided to establish an elementary and middle school on campus for the younger siblings of the high students that attended. Hi sis. A small voice similar to Suyu's called out. Both Suyu and Eri turned to see Suyu's little sister, Satsuki, walk up to them. Hi, Satsuki. Suyu responded with a smile. Morning, Eri, Satsuki said as she noticed the girl standing right next to her sister. When Eri first started attending school, she ended up eating alone during lunch since she didn't know anyone else. Satsuki was kind enough to sit next her. Ever since then, the two of them were considered inseparable, spending time together doing crafts, talking about who the coolest hero was, what they hope to be when they grow up, and many other things. Morning, Satsuki, Eri said with a smile. I'll see you both after school, okay? Suyu asked as the school bell rang. Okay, bye, both girls said as they watched Suyu leap toward the main campus building. So let me get this straight. Itsuka from Class 1B said as she, Monoma, Pony, Tetsu, and Abara crowded around Midoriya, Uraraka, Kirishima, and Suyu's table in the cafeteria. You four, along with your supervisors and the Big Three, fought against Overhaul and the 8 precepts of Death and Wan. Pretty much, Uraraka said. That's cool, Pony exclaimed. Pity you all came out alive and well. Damn it, Monoma, what did I tell you about teaching her to say that garbage? Itsuka said as she used her quirk to slap the copy user upside his head. Kirishima, Tetsu cried out. I also heard you held your own against 2 of them. That's one of the manliest things I ever heard of. Damn right. Kirishima responded back as the 2 hardening users fist pumped each other. If they were in a Michael K movie, I swear there would be explosions around them. Mina thought as she sweat dropped. There have also been reports that you saved a little girl and that she's now living with you. Abara said in her monotone voice. Is that true? Yep. Mina chimed in. Her name is Eri. She's 6 years old, and she is just the cutest little thing. Here, I've got a photo of her. She pulled out her phone and showed it to the Class 1B students. In the picture was Eri being held in Uraraka's arms while Midoriya was standing next to them. Ah, Itsuka said with happiness. You're right. She's so cute. And she seems to be very happy. And get this, Mina said with a sly grin on her face. Eri has taken to calling Midoriya and Uraraka her Papa and Mama. The Class 1B students all looked at Midoriya and Uraraka with interest and puzzlement. Even Abara's poker face faltered as she had a look of surprise. Is that true? Itsuka asked. Well, yes, Midoriya said, his face a slight pink. But I'm guessing that it's due to the fact that Aries never had a real mother or father figure in her life. And since I was made her temporary guardian, she would potentially call me her father. And Iida explained to me that since I was both the first female figure and student that showed her kindness besides Midoriya when she arrived here, it would make sense for her to call me her mother. Uraraka said with a face that was just as pink as Midoriya's. Well, if you morons are her parents, Monoma chimed in with his signature smug grin, then that little brat is going to have a pretty miserable Liang. He didn't get the chance to finish as his face had just contorted into a look of pain. The other students looked down and saw why. Uraraka had taken the opportunity to plant the heel of her shoe right onto Monoma's toes. Even though she had an innocent look on her face, the others could sense an aura of menace surrounding her as she looked up at Monoma. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Uraraka said as she began to twist her heel back and forth. What were you saying about Eri? I said. Monoma struggled to say as he felt the pain of his toes being crushed. That, you're both very lucky to have her, and she'll be very happy here. Thanks, that means a lot, Uraraka said as she lifted her foot. Anyway, Itsuka said, still in shock about what had just happened. I gotta say, you and Midoriya look so happy together, Uraraka. From what the picture shows, you two could stand out as an actual couple. WWW what? Midoriya and Uraraka shouted in unison. At this, They soon swiveled their heads to look at each other. Realizing what the other had just said, both of their faces turned brick red and their gazes fell on their food. They could hear a joyful giggle from Mina as she saw the two students avert each other's gazes. Yeah, a couple, Pony chimed in. A shitty one, at that. Monoma. So, how's living with sis going? Satsuki asked Eri. It was lunchtime and, as per usual, the two girls were sitting at their usual spot. It's great, Eri said excitedly. Everyone's been really nice to me, and Mama and Papa are really caring. Don't make me laugh. A little girl said snidely as approached Eri and Satsuki's table. The girl was Miki Monoma, cousin to Nito Monoma. Like Nito, she was a copy user and was the queen bitch in her grade. As if anyone could care about a poor, pathetic girl like you. If those two morons that you call your parents had any brains at all, they would ditched you at the nearest orphanage. She didn't get a chance to finish, for a boy behind her had struck her upside the head, causing her to be knocked out. Sorry about that, the boy said as he glanced at Eri and Satsuki. I'm pretty sure there's a hole where her heart should be the name's Akihito Itsuka, by the way. He added as he extended his hand with a smile. Kendo Itsuka from Class 1B is my cousin. I'm Satsuki Asui, little sister to Suyu Asui from Class 1A. Satsuki said, and this is Eri. She's living with my sister in Class 1A. Hi, Eri said simply, though it was evident from the others that there was a hint of sadness in her voice. Listen, Eri, Akihito said, don't let what Miki said to you get you down. From what I've heard from others, it sounds like Midoriya and Uraraka do care about you and they would never abandon you. Thanks, Akihito, Eri said with a smile. Hey sis, Satsuki called out to Suyu as the students were being dismissed. Hi Satsuki. Hi Eri, Suyu said with a smile. How was school? Great, both girls said in unison. Good to hear that, Suyu said. Ready to head home, Eri. Yep. See you tomorrow, Satsuki. Eri said to her friend. See you tomorrow, Eri. Satsuki said, waving as the high schooler and her friend leapt their way back to the 1A dormitory. And then in science, we learned about the solar system and about all of the planets. Eri said excitedly to Midoriya and Uraraka. The high school students had just returned to their dormitory to find an overjoyed Eri waiting for them. All of them greeted her with a smile. That sounds great, Eri, Uraraka said as she smiled at the little girl. So you're learning a lot in school. Yep, Eri said. And I've made a few friends, including Satsuki, Big Sis Sue's little sister. Unbeknownst to her, Suyu had heard everything and blushed at the prospect of being called Big Sis. Kachan, Eri said as she saw the hot head of Class 1A enter the room. She walked over and looked up at him. He in turn looked down on her with his usual angry face. I heard that your quirk is to make explosions out of your hands, is that correct? Yeah, what about it? Bakugo asked with a scowl. Could you show it to me, please? Eri asked as she gave Bakugo puppy dog eyes. Bakugo looked at the little girl and felt his heart skip a few beats. Don't you give in, he thought to himself. Don't you fucking give in. After a minute of self-control. Fine, he said, but I'm only gonna do it once. Yeah, Eri said in excitement. Hey Four Eyes. Bakugo called out to Iida. We got anything useless that needs to be destroyed. You should learn to respect your fellow classmates and call them by their proper names, Bakugo. Iida said in annoyance, to which Bakugo snorted. And yes, I have just the thing. Iida pulled out a stack of magazines tied together with twine and tossed it to Bakugo. Bakugo saw that they all had various naked women on the covers. I confiscated them from Mineta. Iida said. I was planning on tossing them away in a place where he wouldn't find them, but your way sounds better. No, Mineta cried out as he was being held back by Mashirao and Honta. I'll do anything, Bakugo. Anything. Just don't do it. Ignoring Mineta's plea, Bakugo clenched the magazines and a loud boom came from his hand. Instantly, the magazines burst into flames until they were nothing but ashes. No, Mineta cried out in anguish. My babies. You murdered my babies. Wow, Kachan, Eri said in amazement. That's an awesome quirk you've got. I know, Bakugo said with a smirk. My quirk's totally awesome. He took the opportunity to shoot a smug grin at Midoriya. You hear that, Deku? He thought to himself. Even she thinks that my quirk is better than your shitty one. I mean, it's not as cool as Papa's, but still. Eri said with a smile. Not as cool as Deku's. Bakugo said through gritted teeth. Soon, his hands began to clench and explode in anger as a few veins along his forehead started to throb. He's gonna blow. Mina cried out in terror. Everyone, take cover, Mineta said as he dove underneath the coffee table. Honta used his tape quirk to grab Eri and reeled her away from Bakugo. He then handed her to Uraraka, who leapt over the couch and hid behind it with Midoriya. Stay close to us, Eri. Midoriya instructed, to which she nodded. The rest of the students hid behind or underneath whatever furniture they could find and closed their eyes, waiting for the inevitable. After a few minutes, however, nothing happened. The students slowly peeked out from their hiding places to see any damage. What they saw caused all of them to go bug-eyed. Bakugo was just standing where he was with a blank look on his face. His eyebrows had even lost their crossness. Quote dot dot dot. What's up with Bakugo? Shoto whispered to no one in particular. I've seen this before, Midoriya said. Kachan gets so angry he just stops moving altogether. It's like some higher deity hit the pause button on him. And when he's like that, he added as his face paled, he becomes severely unstable. Rising to his feet, Kirishima moved slowly toward Bakugo so as to not trigger him. Be Bakugo, he asked as soon as he was 10 feet away. Are you Oka? If I don't end up destroying something or someone within the next 5 minutes, Bakugo interrupted in a monotone voice that expressed no anger or any other emotion, this entire building will look like someone dropped a nuke on it. At that precise moment, Kaminari entered the building. Hey guys, he said, unaware of what had happened. What did I? Oh, look at that. Bakugo said as his gaze turned to Kaminari. Continuity. Ah, crap, Kaminari thought as he ran outside with a smiling Bakugo hot on his trail. The next thing the other 1A students heard was the sounds of explosions, Bakugo's maniacal laughter, and Kaminari's screams of terror. Papa, Mama, Eri said with a pale face, there's something else I've learned today. What's that, sweetie? Uraraka asked as she jumped at the sound of an explosion that was 60 feet away. Never talk to Kachan about whose quirk is cooler. Eri stated. Smart lesson to learn, Eri. Midoriya said. After the Kaminari Bakugo incident, the rest of the late afternoon continued on as it normally did. The students were doing their homework, some together, some on their own. Bakugo came back after 10 minutes with a Bakugo-style smile on his face. Kaminari came soon after looking like he had sat on the edge of a smokestack. Everything seemed to be back to normal until, Eri, come back here. Iida's voice called out. Midoriya and Uraraka turned to see Iida chasing Eri, who had a chocolate chip cookie in each hand. Eri, Iida said as she giggled, you need to eat the healthy meal I've made for you before you go and consume non-nutritional food. Suddenly, a long piece of tape appeared in front of Eri that connected to the couch. Eri quickly jumped over the tape and continued to book at Iida, however, was not so fortunate. As soon as his foot made contact with the tape, he keeled forward and landed flat on his face. Sorry Iida, Honta called out. As Eri covered her mouth to giggle, she felt a few fingertips touch her on the head. The next thing she knew, she was floating a few feet in the air. Uraraka stood facing her with her arms crossed. Eri, Uraraka said in a stern yet friendly voice, Iida's right. I know that cookies taste delicious, but you have to have a steady diet of nutritional foods. You can't just eat sweets all the time. Now, she continued as she extended her hand out, please hand over the cookies and eat the dinner Iida prepped for you. If you're good, you can have one cookie for dessert. Okay. Okay, Eri said disappointedly as she handed the cookies to Uraraka while she was upside down. Uraraka smiled and gave Eri a kiss on the cheek, causing her to giggle. She then rerighted and released her, causing Eri to land on her feet. You okay, Iida? Midoriya asked as his friend rose up and shook his head vigorously. I'm fine, thanks, Iida said. Just a little dazed. That's all come now Eri, he said as he extended his hand, time for dinner. After dinner, Uraraka brought Eri upstairs to bathe, brush her teeth and change into her nightgown. Afterwards, Eri returned to be read a book by Momo. Mineta tried to teach her how to play poker, but he was stopped by Iida, who scolded him for trying to teach a 6-year-old how to gamble. At around 8 o'clock, Eri was found sleeping on the couch by Midoriya and Uraraka. Smiling, Uraraka careful picked her up and she and Midoriya made their way up the stairs to his room. We'll be down in a bit, guys, Midoriya said to the others, to which they nodded in response. Don't stay up there too long, lovebirds, Mina said with a sly grin on her face. What? Midoriya and Uraraka both said in unison as their faces reddened. They continued up the stairs avoiding each other's gazes until they reached Midoriya's room. When they entered, Uraraka carefully placed Eri on her bed while Midoriya covered her up with a blanket. As the two began to leave, they suddenly heard a tiny voice say, Mama. Papa. Wait. Both students looked at each other in confusion. The only person who could make that sound was Eri. Wait. The voice said, this time sounding desperate and worried, wait for me. Midoriya flicked the light switch on and he and Uraraka both saw Eri lying on her bed with her eyes closed and a look of desperation on her face. Eri. Midoriya asked. Come back, Eri said as her lips began to quiver. Don't leave, Eri, Uraraka said, now sounding desperate herself, as she gently shook Eri's shoulder. Eri, sweetie, wake up. Mama, Eri yelled out as tears began to flow out of her closed eyes. Papa, come back, Eri, Midoriya said as he too began to shake Eri. Listen to us, what you're seeing isn't real. Wake up. Almost instantly, Eri's eyes snapped open as she sat upright. She breathed heavily as her eyes swiveled from side to side so that she could recognize her surroundings. They soon turned to look at Uraraka and Midoriya, who were both torn between worry and confusion. Eri, Midoriya asked. Eri's lips quivered as she looked on at the two students. The next second, she had flung herself at Uraraka and began to sob into her chest. Eri, Midoriya said worriedly, what happened? I was in this dark room. Eri said as she choked through her sobs. I saw you and Mama walking away from me. It tried to catch up to you, but I couldn't reach you. I then called out to you, but you couldn't hear me, then you both disappeared and I tried calling out to you over and over and Eri couldn't finish her sentence as she had resumed to sobbing into Uraraka's chest. Uraraka responded by giving a small smile and wrapping her arms around Eri for comfort. Shish, she said softly, it's okay, Eri. We're here. You just had a bad dream, that's all. But, Eri said as she sniffled a bit and looked up at the gravity user. But it seemed so real. Believe us, Eri, Midoriya said, we will never leave you, not in a million years. Eri nodded, though she still looked saddened. Seeing this, Uraraka picked her and sat down on the bed while cradling Eri. She then began to rock back and forth and hum softly. Then she began to softly sing. Come, stop your crying. It will be all right. Just take my hand. Hold it tight. I will protect you. From all around you. I will be here. Don't you cry. Hearing Uraraka's soft voice caused a small smile to form on Eri's face. Midoriya's face, on the other hand, began to glow bright red. He always knew that Uraraka was beautiful and that hearing her voice always made him act like a bumbling idiot, but he had no idea she could sing so beautifully as well. It was like she was the perfect woman. For one so small, you seem so strong. My arms will hold you, keep you safe and warm. This bond between us can't be broken. I will be here. Don't you cry. Soon, Eri's eyes began to droop and she let out a big yawn. Midoriya couldn't help but smile as he continued to listen to Uraraka's melodic voice. 'Cause you'll be in my heart. Yes, you'll be in my heart. From this day on now and forevermore. You'll be in my heart. No matter what they say. You'll be here in my heart, always. Uraraka and Midoriya glanced down to see Eri with her eyes closed. Gently, Uraraka placed her head against the pillow and draped the blanket over her. Midoriya leaned in and kissed Eri on the forehead. Good night, Eri, he said. Uraraka leaned down and kissed Eri's cheek. Sweet dreams, sweet pea. She and Midoriya quietly made their way to the doorway and turned to look back at Eri. She looks so peaceful, doesn't she, Deku? Uraraka asked as she placed a hand on his chest and rested her head on his shoulder. She sure does, Deku said with a smile as he slowly closed the door. His gaze then turned to Uraraka's hand on his chest and his cheeks turned bright red. Uraraka glanced down at what he was flustered about and her cheeks turned a similar color. Almost on instinct, the two leapt away with their backs turned from each other. I'm actually pretty tired, so I'm gonna go to bed. Uraraka stuttered, not even looking at Midoriya's back. Oh, okay. Midoriya said as well. I'm GG gonna go downstairs and hang out WW with Iida and the others. Night. Both students shouted as they ran off in different directions. Meanwhile, Mina was cursing to herself from one of the unoccupied rooms. Damn, she said when she saw both Midoriya and Uraraka leave in a fluster. And I thought they would actually kiss. Hi guys, hope you like this chapter. Once again, sorry it took a while to complete and thank you all so much for your patience and support. I promise that the next chapter will be released more quickly than this one. A few pointers. 1. The reason I incorporated the elementary, middle school on the UA campus is so that Eri has a place to get an education while Class 1A has their own lessons. 2. I decided to introduce Tsuyu's little sister Satsuki to the story because I figured it would be nice for Eri to have a friend that was her own age. I don't think anyone knows Eri's real age, so I guessed it to be 6/7. 3. I'm sorry if Ochako twisting her heel on Monoma's foot was a bit OOC. I figured it would be the perfect opportunity to display her protective mother side. 4. There will be a few more moments in the story in which Eri brings out the fluffiness in Bakugo. 5. I know it that the whole singing to calm child from nightmare thing is a bit cliche, but when the thought of Ochako singing a somewhat lullaby to Eri came into my head, well, insert Doctor with paddles clear. Zap for how Ochako would sing it. Look up the Celtic Woman version on YouTube. Well guys, it's been fun. Once again, I will release the next chapter soon. Where creepy crawlies and ghoulish freights invade the UA campus. Eri and Class 1A celebrate Halloween. Don't forget to favorite, comment, and follow for more updates. Until then, this is Anime Fan 299,110, encouraging you all to go beyond. Plus, Ultra, where stories live. Discover now.